going on, you guys? Coach Andrew here with another question from a viewer. And our friend today is asking us a question about social anxiety. So our friend suffers from an affliction where anytime someone makes a passing comment, or he sees a post on Facebook, or has a disagreement with someone that doesn't go exactly the way he wanted it to, he ruminates about it, which means he thinks about it for long periods of time. And if he starts thinking about it, he has a really hard time stopping. And he'll continually ask himself, could I have done something differently? Was that directed at me? Are they mad at me? Am I doing something wrong? And they're constantly in a situation where they're just running around in circles in their head trying to figure out, why something happened the way it did. And this is just social anxiety. That's what this is. I used to do this all the time when I was younger, in high school and even in college, and it can be beaten, okay? This is a condition that can be beaten, but if you want any hope of stopping this behavior, you need to understand what causes it. So in this video, I'm going to talk about some of the causes, and I'm also going to explain why there's a really good chance that you're actually addicted to this behavior. And if you understand the addictive nature of rumination, you'll have a much better chance of defeating it. So we're going to talk about that in a second. But first, if you're really into self-development, if you like improving your mindset, your life, maybe you're an entrepreneur, a business person, a parent, someone who likes fitness, whatever the case may be, if you are pursuing something higher, subscribe to the channel, leave a like on the video, leave a comment if you have questions or concerns for me. I'm always here to help you guys out, answer your questions. That's what this channel is all about. So let's dive into the issue here. Rumination. In order to understand why rumination is slightly addictive, in fact, very addictive for a lot of people, you need to understand the biological mechanisms, which means brain chemistry. Brain chemistry it's the foundation for all of our behaviors. Most of the things we feel and think are a result of the neurotransmitters, the chemicals, the hormones in our body and in our brain that tell our body and our brain what to do and what to think and how to feel. Now, when it comes to stress and negative emotions like anxiety, stress, depression, generally there is a lack of endorphins, which are the feel-good hormones like serotonin and dopamine. While that is true, there is also a higher presence of stress hormones like cortisol, epinephrine, norepinephrine. These hormones are secreted in moments of stress, moments of anxiety, because our brain believes that there is a threat at hand, and it wants us to be prepared to fight or run away, right? Fight or flight. I'm sure you've all heard about that. What that means is that the stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, they increase our blood pressure, they increase our heart rate, they make us really hyper-vigilant, so we're aware of everything that is around us so we can identify threats. When you look at drugs like amphetamines, right, or methylphenidates, things like ADHD medications, or even caffeine, these drugs stimulate, buffer, and support these stress hormones like adrenaline because it makes you really focused and it gives you lots of energy. Something else you might notice about drugs like amphetamines and cocaine and caffeine is that they're highly addictive, and the more coffee you drink, the more coffee you're going to need to drink to get the same effect. So what does this mean for us when we're ruminating, when we have negative emotions, right? Because when you're stressed and when you're anxious, your brain flips on the switch and you go into a sympathetic state, a sympathetic nervous state, which means your stress hormones are up and your endorphins are down. Just like coffee, just like amphetamines, this state becomes addictive because your body is getting a high. You're getting jolts of energy, jolts of focus. And that's why sometimes when we're thinking about something that bothers us, if you're ruminating, this is why you can tend to really hyper focus on it sometimes, and it's hard to make it go away because your brain is telling you that this is a threat. You need to be very aware. You need to be ready to fight. And that's why it's so hard to get out of that cycle. It turns into a self-feeding cycle, a feedback loop. The more time you spend in a sympathetic state where you're thinking about things and you're ruminating, the more you're going to adapt to that sympathetic state and the more you're going to crave it. If your brain is constantly feeding your body thoughts that are negative, that are stressful, that put you in a sympathetic state, the more your brain is going to believe that you are in a hostile environment. It's going to think that you are constantly in a survival situation because you're always stressed. And your brain has a really hard time telling the difference between real life and imagination. So if you spend a lot of time thinking about things that are stressful, your brain's not necessarily going to know that those stressful situations aren't real. It doesn't matter if it's in your head or if it's in your external environment. Your brain is going to treat it the same way by secreting stress hormones and putting you into a sympathetic state. So putting all these pieces together, the more we think negative, the more we're going to think negative. The more time we spend with elevated stress hormones, the more our body is going to secrete stress hormones. And if we spend lots of time ruminating, lots of time being stressed or anxious, our body is going to break down. Stress hormones like cortisol, they break down muscle tissue and turn it into glucose so that you have fuel, so that you're ready to go sprint, right? If you're being chased. But you can't be chased by negative thoughts. It doesn't matter to your body. You're going to continue secreting adrenaline. You're going to get adrenal fatigue. You're going to get really tired. And it's going to be really, really hard for you to focus and feel good without these stress hormones. So inadvertently, we end up propping ourselves up on these stress hormones, and it becomes really difficult for us to break out of these anxious, stressful cycles because we need those hormones to feel normal because our body thinks that that's a normal state. So that's really the chemical end. And if you can understand that biochemical mechanism that creates addictive behaviors, you can understand why negative thoughts end up becoming addictive, and you become addicted to the pain, addicted to the stress. Another reason why we treat negative thoughts somewhat addictively is because we associate ourselves with our thoughts. Our ego, for many of us, becomes attached to our thoughts, and we treat the things that we think about as if they are a part of us, as if we are responsible for all of our thoughts. But the truth is, you don't consciously think of all of the thoughts that you have. You don't consciously create all of the emotions, all of the feelings, and all of the imaginings that your brain comes up with. A lot of it is a product of your subconscious mind. It is a product of all of the background processing that's going on in your brain. For example, don't think about elephants. You just thought about elephants, and you didn't choose to because something in your environment told you to think about elephants. It's the exact same way that when you're scrolling through Facebook and you see a profile picture or a name of someone that you don't really get along with, or you see a post, maybe it's a political post that you don't necessarily agree with, it immediately triggers a chain of thoughts, a sequence of thoughts that are probably negative in nature because your brain has these mechanisms in place. It's ready to deal with different categories that you have previously created about your life and your environment. The problem arises when we attach our ego to every single thought that we have because we've already established you don't create most of your thoughts. But if you associate all of your thoughts with your ego, all of a sudden you have to defend them. You have to justify those thoughts because if you don't, it means that you are wrong. It means that your ego created ideas, created thoughts and emotions that aren't true. They're not accurate, and that is a threat to your identity. So the key here, the key to fixing rumination, to fixing stress, and to reducing the amount of time you spend in a sympathetic state is to disassociate yourself from your thoughts. Recognize that most of your thoughts are not consciously yours, and they have nothing to do with your identity. The identity that we have usually unknowingly created for ourselves is based upon the way that we feel most of the time. It's based upon the emotions we feel and the thoughts that we have, but that's a completely inaccurate way to live your life. It's not a true, authentic way to live your life because you're not responsible for a lot of the things that are going on up here. Really good way to disassociate from your thoughts and protect your identity from these sympathetic moments is to just take a really deep breath and look around you, right? So close your eyes or keep your eyes open, whatever's more comfortable, and just acknowledge all of the space around you, the trees, the sensations. What are you smelling? What are you feeling? What are you hearing? Pay attention to the noises, the cars, the birds, the insects, and just create space around your body, around you and your mind. And recognize that the thoughts that you're listening to, the thoughts that you're seeing, are not necessarily yours. and you can just observe them and let them float by. You can look at them without judging them, without feeling a need to defend them, to justify them, without a need to analyze or try to prove anything right or wrong. Just acknowledge it and let it pass by. Now this is going to be hard because, like we already talked about, stress and negative emotions are addictive, and your brain is going to continually try to convince you to keep thinking about it. The more you think about something negative, the angrier you get, the more stressed you get, the more of a high you get, because there's more stress hormones, more adrenaline, right? It's like drinking a bunch of coffee. The more you do, the more intense it gets, and the more you just want to fight. The angrier you get, the more stressed you get. So it's going to be hard at first, but I'm telling you guys, if you just focus and breathe and do things that are proven to reduce stress hormones and increase endorphins, it will become easier to fight your addiction to pain. Some things that naturally increase dopamine, things that make you feel better, are, for one, going outside. Being in nature, especially on a beautiful day, is going to reduce your stress, and it's going to make you feel better. There are other things too, like human touch. You can go get a hug from one of your children or your significant other or your mom or your dad. Go get a hug and talk about your feelings. Do something nice for someone. All of these things are going to increase your endorphins and decrease your stress hormones, and that will make fighting your negative thoughts and fighting your rumination a little bit easier. Ultimately, this is going to come down to you deciding who you want to be, and really, really seriously deciding in your heart what kind of identity you want to have and how you want to represent yourself, how you want to treat yourself. Because you can decide to continue riding the high of negative emotion. This is why some people are so addicted to drama. There are some people out there who they can't avoid drama. They can't avoid arguing with people because it's addictive. And if you don't want to be that person, if you're tired of ruminating, if you're tired of being anxious and stressed, you have to decide deep down inside that you don't want to be that person, and your identity is not that way. If you can decide that and put real effort and real focus into fighting negative thoughts by observing them and letting them pass by and remembering who you are and doing things that increase endorphin levels and doing things that decrease stress levels, you will begin to push these feelings away, and you will overcome your tendency to ruminate and focus on negative thoughts. It's totally possible. But that's it. That's some of my best advice, you guys. And I really, really wish you the best of luck in your battle, because this is a battle worth fighting. I'm going to tell you guys right now, it is worth fighting, because when you get to the other side, you're going to remember who you were. You're going to remember who you wanted to be, because you're going to be closer to being that person. The person that you want to be does not ruminate on negativity. The person you want to be is not constantly in a sympathetic state, a stressed state, an anxious state. That's not how you want to live your life. It will take years off of your life. You'll get gray hair quicker. Your skin will get wrinkly quicker. You'll get diseases. It will destroy your body from the inside out. So you have to fight this battle, and you can win it if you keep trying. So let me know if that was helpful. If this video was helpful, please leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. If you have other questions, or if you want more specific details, or if you have your own problems that you're facing in your life, please leave it in the comments. Or if you don't want to do that, send it to the email in the description. I'm more than happy to film a video, upload it to the channel. Or if you don't want that, I can just respond to your email. I'm here to help you guys. So let me know what you're struggling with. I guarantee there's some information, there's some wisdom that I can dig up for you to help you win your battles and help you improve your life. I'm Coach Andrew. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Stop ruminating. It's not worth it.